Okay, welcome everyone. First of all, apologies to the YouTube listeners, viewers. Last night on the new computer, I didn't have access to my YouTube channel. I did get it hooked up earlier this evening, so last night's shiurim are now on YouTube. And also, I apologize if TorahAnytime.com viewers had unedited access to last night's shiurim. They were a little unedited because my editing equipment was not yet on the new computer. Both of those things are now corrected, and I thank Rabbi Nussbaum here in Lakewood, who is a computer guru, for getting me all set up with that. And the new computer now has everything, including Shelley, a new souped-up Word. So I'm ready and waiting for the article. I didn't see it yet, and we are ready to start the new perek. Don't forget that later on this week, I believe already Tuesday, you're going to need your second volume if you use an art scroll. We are co-sponsored by the Rezepkowitz family in honor of their parents, co-sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Eddie Chassan, L'Refuah Shalema for Shoshana Bas Penina, Simon Bas Rachel, co-sponsored by Binyamin Ruvlin, Leila Nishman, Yitzhak Ben Avram Yudah Alevi, co-sponsored by Shelley Zeitlin, for my refuah, and also for the schus of his children, Eli Orit and Ora. We are sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Leila Nishman, Yaakov Zeb Ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, and Yosef Ben Sion Ben Yaakov Zev. And finally, by Berit Goldwasser with Akursa Tov to the share, and for my refuah, Moshe Meir Ben Esther Fradel. And in honor of starting the new perek, it is a pleasure to have already 30 Zoomers online over here with Berish Geselman, Ben Sion Kohn, Irving Fishman, Yaakov Warman, Saba, Baruch Ian, Michael, Akta, Menachem Umansky, Elliot Udell, Dr. Black, Yisrael Fisher, Shimon Klein, Eddie Chazan, Shelley Zeitlin, Shalom Fogel, Dov Selkowitz, Itchy, Stephen Holtzman, Nachman Chapler, Yitzi Muller, Yitzi Fuchs, Mark Frankel, and Marshall Castle, again by the hockey, Ilya Shutman, Moshe Lehman, Richard Rosenzweig, Avram Rezepkowitz, Rabbi Kran, oh my goodness, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, and we say hello to Mrs. Marshall. We are sponsored also by Beth Mermelstein, Lina Nishmas. Her father, whose yahrzeit is tonight, Aaron Ben Avram, Neshama should have an aliyah. We welcome in David Helfgott, who's joining us on Kol Lashon. And here in the shul, we have Chaim Kramer, Michal Avram Chavin, and Ruvain Shannon holding down the fort, expecting soon to see Gedalia Engel. We begin the new perek on Daf Mem Amud Aleph. Hayaboitkin Oyson. We investigate and interrogate the witnesses in a capital case, B'Shevach Akiris, with 7 different questions. Be'ezer Shvua, there were 7 Shemitah cycles in a Jubilee, in a Yovel. Which number of the Shemitah cycle? Be'ezer Shana, which year of that Shemitah? Be'ezer Chodesh, which month? Bekama b'Chodesh, what day of the month? Be'ezer Yom, what day of the week? Be'ezer Shah, what hour? And Be'ezer Makam, where it took place. Those were the 7 questions in order to determine the scene of the crime. Rabbi Yossi says we don't have to ask these numerous questions. It's enough to pinpoint it Be'ezer Yom, which day of the week, Be'ezer Shah, which hour, and Be'ezer Makam, and what place. We asked him, Makira Matem, did you recognize the murder victim? Was he a Jew or was he a guy? Did you give him Hasra? Did you give the murderer a warning that he should know that if he does it, he'll get a death sentence? Now, if the person is guilty of idol worship, we ask, Esmi Avad, what idol did he worship? Did he worship Merkulis? Did he worship Baal Pa'ar? Each one has different types of worship. There are 4 universal worships: slaughter, sacrifice, smoking, bowing down, and offering a libation. And then whoever increased the examinations, in other words, they asked them background details so that if the testimony contradicts each other, they throw it out. Ben Zakkai investigated the witnesses in a murder crime by asking that the thickness of the stem of the figs in the background of the murder. What's the difference between the 7 official questions and further detailed questions? Chakiris, the 7 basic questions, if even one of the witnesses says, Eini Yodea, I don't know, in other words, I don't know what day of the week, etc., Eidusan B'Tela, the testimony is thrown out. B'dikais, but the background information, what color clothing was the victim wearing, if one says, I don't know, or even if both say they don't know, still the testimony could be upheld. But whether it's the 7 basic questions or further detailed investigation, if the witnesses contradict each other, we throw out the testimony. Now, let's pick 2 witnesses over here, Elliot and Shelley. If one says it happened on the 2nd of the month, Elliot says it happened on the 2nd of the month, and Shelley said it happens on the 3rd of the month, Eidusan Kayemis. There we could still uphold their testimony. Why? Elliot, who said the 2nd of the month, knew that the previous month was made into a 30-day month, and therefore Rosh Chodesh started a day later, so it's only the 2nd of the month. While Shelley didn't know that the previous month was enlarged, and therefore he thought it was the 3rd of the month. But if Elliot said the 3rd of the month and Shelley said the 5th of the month, then then we throw out the testimony. If Elliot said a 2nd hour of the day and Shelley said the 3rd hour of the day, remember all they had is a sundial. They didn't have a digital watch. So they didn't know precisely that carefully the time. But if one said it was the 3rd hour of the day and one says it was the 5th hour of the day, then they do some matela. Then they throw out the testimony. Rabbi Yehuda says, nah, kayemes. With a sundial, you can make a mistake even of 2 hours. But if Mark says it was the 5th of the hour and Barry, who we welcome in, says it was the 7th of the hour, then they do some betela. Then we throw it out because because in the 5th hour the sun is in the east, in the 7th hour the sun is in the west. So somebody doesn't have their story straight over here. Now, I do want to acknowledge that I know it's not easy for Barry to come. Barry, I know it's not easy for you, and I applaud your coming, and it also is mechazik all of us. Even though Barry has flu in the house, how's Miriam?
She went out today for an hour.
Tell her I wish her well. You know, we always have
to get away from you, Barry?
We always have to pray for Miriam. She lives with Barry.
Yeah. I can't get a break.
We welcome in Jay Siegel as our 31st Zoomer of the evening. And here comes Naftali Jablin, our 32nd Zoomer of the evening. So anyway, after they take the full testimony from the first witness, Elliot, then they bring in Shelley, the second witness, they grill him. If their words are matching, then since it's a capital crime, as we explained, they first start deliberating for the exoneration of the defendant. If let's say one of the witnesses, let's say Shelley says, I have an argument for his innocence. Or one of the disciples that was sitting on the sides, remember there were 3 rows, says we have an argument for conviction. Adam cannot argue for innocence once they came to testify for his that he did the crime, and the Talmidim in the bullpen are not allowed to argue for conviction. But Amar Echad min Talmidim, if one of the in the 3 rows argue Yeshli Lalamid Olav Schus, that I have an argument for his innocence, then Malin Oisai, they bring him up to the platform of the official judges, Umayshivan Oisai Beinehem, and they add him to their ranks. And he didn't descend the entire day, kulay, and and if there is substance to what he says, we listen to him as we welcome in Dr. Guy, with 34th Zoomer, and Rabbi Kranz joining us, Abe Arbach joining us. It's wonderful to have everybody. Even if the defendant himself says, Yeshli lalamid al atzmi schus, I have an argument for my defense, we listen to him, as long as there's substance to what he's saying. If they have a argument for his exoneration, then patru, then we release him. If not, we don't convict him on the same day. We wait till the next day. They break up into pairs to discuss the case further. They didn't eat regular meals, they ate less. They didn't drink wine the entire day. They deliberated through the night. The next morning they came to Bezdin. Hamazaka, the ones who argued for innocence, I argued for innocence and I am remaining in my place. And those that argued for guilt says, in the deliberation stage, as we welcome in Moshe Lehman for our 35th Zoomer of this evening, Hamalamed Chayva, one who argued for guilt, Malamed Tzchus, can switch to innocence. But one who argues for innocence, he cannot switch. Remember, we said he cannot switch until all the way later when the final decision is made. At that point, he can switch. Tobadav, if somebody in saying his opinion erred, he says, I'm one of the ones that said that he was guilty, and we tell him, no, you aren't. You argued for innocence. Shnei Sefer Adayanim, the 2 court stenographers, Maskira Naisai, they remind him what his opinion is. Now, if they vote for his innocence, Petrur, they release him. If it was clear that they came up with an argument now that he's innocent, so Petru, they release him. Vimlav, but if not, Oindim Dominion. They stand to be vote. Shnayim Aser Mezakin, remember it's for a capital crime, it's a court of 23. So Shnayim Aser Mezakin, Ve'echad Aser Mechayvim, if 12 say he's innocent and 11 say he's guilty, remember we can declare him innocent with a majority of 1. Zakai, he's innocent and he's released. If 12 say he's guilty and 11 say he's innocent, that's not good, because we don't convict without a majority of 2. Even if it's a draw, 11 and 11. And one says he doesn't know. We have to have a decision that emanates from 23 judges. Or even if 22 say he's innocent, or 22 say he's guilty, one says he doesn't know, so we don't have a decision of 23 judges.
It's frozen.
It's the roof.
Let's speak.
Pull up the computer, man.
We're all good. The roof is not, there we go. You're moving.
Okay, its connection is
Doesn't
back.
that computer have any heat?
Call the computer expert.
What, am I good now?
Yes,
Yeah.
How much did you miss?
barely anything.
I'm right. You're there.
10 seconds.
You're there.
15 seconds,
You ended 6 lines up on the bottom of the Gemara.
Okay, so Shnayam asim mechayvim ve'echad asim mezaken. If 12 say guilty and 11 say innocent, that's not good enough, because you can't convict with a majority of one. Even if it's 11 and 11, but and one says he doesn't know, it's no good, because you have to have a decision, a decisive decision of 23 judges. Even if 22 say innocent, or 22 say guilty, and one says he doesn't know, that's not good enough, because you have to have a decision emanating from 23 judges. So Yosifu Adayanim. We have to add judges. They add 2 at a time. The Kama Moisifin, Shnayim, 2 at a time. Add, and if we still don't have a majority of 2, until Shivim Ve'echad, until 71, we don't add more than the Sanhedrin Agadol. If you have Shloisha V'Shisha Mezakin and Shloisha V'Chamisha Mechayvin, if you have 36 saying innocent, 35 saying guilty, well, remember, we declare innocent with a majority of 1, Zakai. If 36 say guilty and 35 say innocent, so what do we do now? We only have a majority of 1. We don't convict with a majority of 1. Done in Elu Keneged Elu, they keep on deliberating until one of the ones that say guilty say innocent, so that then it switches to 36 are declaring innocent and 35 saying guilty. Now it could be, since it's at the time of the verdict, it could be that they switch and another one says guilty, and then it would be 37-34, and then it would be 37-34 is 71, right? 37-34 is 71, and then it would be conviction. We could do that too, but the Mishnah wants to say l'schus and not l'chiyuv. So now the Gemara asks right away, how do we know that there are 7 bedikas? And with 35 lovely Zoomers, we want to remind everybody to have in mind to learn to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Dibar Tabam, La'asais Nachas Ruach Liyitzreinu. So the Gemara now says, Minani Mili. How do we know that there are 7 basic questions? So we're going to darshan from the language of Dorash and Chokar and Heitev in the Pasuk 7 times. Actually in 3 psukim. Rabbi Yehuda Dama Kra. One pasuk says v'darashta v'chakarta v'sha'alta heitev. Now that's counted as 3. Darashta is 1, chakarta is 2, sha'alta heitev is 3. V'aimer v'hugad l'cha v'shamata, and it will be told to you and you will hear it. V'darashta heitev. Darashta over there is counted as 1 and heitev is counted as 2. So 3 and 2 is 5. V'amu dorshu ha-shoiftim heitev, the shoiftim dash and heitev, that's another 2, so that's 7. So that's where we know 7 chakiras. So asks the Gemara as we start the top of Mem Amid Beis, ve'ema choda choda kidiksiva. Let's say that each one has only the number in its own pasuk, because as we'll see, this is 3 different psukim. One is talking about the Ir and the Dakas, the city that goes astray after idolatry. One is talking about Edom Zaimimim, and one is talking about regular idolatry. How do you know to put them all together? Because the Imkain, if it was 7 Chakiras Lichtavinu Rachmana B'chada, the Torah should have said 7 Lashinas in one place. Says the Gemara, Kavan the Kulu Ba'adadi Hadadi Ksiva, since all of these verses are all put together. Now, the lashon of Rashi says, since all of these psukim talk about doing drisha during investigation, so they all talk about the same subject. Me'adadi yalfe, we learn one from another. Became in the yalfe me'adadi, since we learn one from the other. Commanded ksiv b'chodadami. It's as if it was written in one place. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? The subject matter is not the same. They're not comparable. They're not analogous one to another. The city that goes astray is not like Edom Zaimimim and Avodah Zarah. Shekain Mamoinam Polak, because the case of Edom Zaimimim and Avodah Zarah, a lot of times their money is spared. Right? The Edom Zaimimim about eating bacon, the witnesses get malchus because they wanted to give the defendant malchus. There's nothing with money, and by regular idol worship, there's no destruction of one's possessions. There's only a death sentence. By Iranidachas, we burn the city down. So maybe it's only by Iranidachas that we need such rigorous interrogation. Avodah Zarah la'anachtarte loy shekain b'sayif. Avodah Zarah la'anachtarte loy damya shekain b'sayif. Because idol worship is stoning, while the case of Aaron Nidachas is by the sword, and Edom Zaimimim is a lot of times with the sword too. For example, if they testify about a misa that would get sayif, then they wanted to give the defendant the sword, so they get the sword. But Avodah Zarah, which always has stoning, maybe it needs more rigorous interrogation. And Edom Zaimim and Edom Zaimim you can't learn from, because Edom Zaimim has the severity that they are punished without hasra. We don't give the Edom that testify in the court hasra. Shekain tzrichim hasra. By the Nidachas and by Avodah Zarah, you need a warning. Says the Gemara, yeah, but you're right. Normally we wouldn't learn them out from one another, but here we have a Gezei Rishava, because by each one it says Heitav. Beheitav, Heitav, Yalfina Ma'adadi. By each one it says Heitav, and we learn out of Gezei Rishava, so we put them together because it says the Gemara, but Gezei Rishava Mufna. The words have to be extra. The Eloi Mufna Ikalamifrach, that we would ask a pirka, like we just said, that each of the three are different. So the Gemara says, La'aye afnuye mufne. They're extra. Because in two of the cases, it didn't have to say the word hativ, it could have said chakru. And instead it used the word hativ, v'shani krabi tiburei. Behativ, shmamina la'afnuye. Says the Gemara, yeah, that's good by two of them. But by Iranidakas, Vakate mufna mitzarecha do b'shlem hanach tarte by Avodah Zarah and Edom Zaimim mufno, because it says v'darshu hativ. It could have said instead v'darshu v'chakru. Mishum davilei l'michtav, as we explained, v'chakru instead of hativ. Ela here in Nidachas, where it says v'darashta v'chakarta v'sha'alta, so it already used all of the lashinas. What should it have had said that hativ is extra? Ela in Nidachas, my havilei l'michtav oksiva kulu. It already said all of the languages. Says the Gemara, Hasam Nami Afnuye Mufne. There it's also extra. Midhavilei l'michtav dorosh sidrash, oy chakar takar. and it uses the word heitev, v'shani krabi dibure beheitev, shmami no la'afnuye, that it's a gzeirah shava to put them all together. Now, it says a case of skila, and it says a case of sayif. Iranidachas is sayif, and avodah zarah is skila. How do we know that we do the 7 chakiras by nechnokin, by those that are strangled, and by those that are nisrafin? So says the Gemara, v'asu nechnokim b'kal v'chaymer. We learn how to nechnokin from a kal v'chaymer from sayif. If we do the 7 chakiras by the sword, so we definitely do it by choking, which is more severe. And we learn out v'asu nechnokim b'kal v'chaymer min niskalin u'min heragin, from stoning and beheading. Right? So now, v'asu nisrafim b'kal v'chaymer min niskalim. And we learn out the nisrafim, which is more severe from a kal v'chaymer from niskalim. So the Gemara says, you see, the Sheva Chakiris, let me explain to you what's going on over here. The Sheva Chakiris is a leniency. Right? Because it gives the defendant a chance to be exonerated. So if we do it by skila, which is more severe, then we surely do it by sreifa, which is less severe. And if we do it by sayif, which is more severe, and by niskalin, then we surely do it by choking, which is less severe. So the Gemara then says, that's good if you hold stoning is more severe than sreifa. El Rabbi Shimon Dama sreifa chamura, but according to Rabbi Shimon it says sreifa is more severe. Then how do we know how do we know that we do 7 bedikas by sreifa? Maybe we only give this chance to the defendant by skila, which is less stringent. Maybe we don't give it by sreifa, which is more stringent. Elama Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda, v'hinei emes nachain, v'hinei emes nachain. It is true, and it is established. It is true, and it is established. Is another 4 added to the 7? It gives us 11. Hachad srei, that's 11. Sheva l'sheva chakiris. 7 of the 11 is for the 7 examinations. Dal tlas l'gzeirah shava. We count also 3 of the heitivs for gzeirah shava, so that's 10. So we have 1 left. Pasalu chada l'Reb Shimon la'asuyei nisrafim. According to Reb Shimon, it's to include nisrafim, which is more chama than niskalim. L'Rabbanan, according to Rabbanan, if we don't need it, because they hold that the niskalim is more severe than the nisrafim, well, that's no problem, because the milsa, the asya b'kal v'chaymer, something that we learn out from a kal v'chaymer, tarach v'kasav l'kra. Sometimes the pasuk troubles to tell it to us. Megadif for Rabbi Yavo, so Rabbi Yavo blasphemes. In other words, he says very strongly, well, you have 1 extra, maybe it's coming to tell you an 8th chakira, an 8th examination. Eimela asuyei shmoyna chakiras. Says, well, what other question could we ask? How could we pin it down more? Ushmayna chakiris mi'ika. Says, what part of the hour? In the beginning of the hour, the end of the hour. We learned likewise how you bite can I say b'shmayna chakiris. They investigated them with 8 chakiris. Hani chalab hayali b'drab meir damer ein adam toya v'loy klum. According to a Bai that says that people are so precise. So then you could say that there's an 8th question. A person could make a mistake a little bit sharper. Because still we could ask, was it in the beginning of the hour or the end of the hour? That's not a little bit. That a person can make a mistake up to a half an hour. Or a person could really make a mistake, then you can't pinpoint it that much. What would be the eighth question? What year of the Yovel? Says Gemara, well, we already pinpoint that. We say, Hainu be'ezeh shvu. We say which of the 7 cycles, and then we say which year of the Shemitah. So we're going to know which year of the Yovel is. El asuye be'ezeh Yovel. What Jubilee did it occur? In other words, they knew what Jubilee they were in. Were they in the 7th Jubilee? Were they in the 8th Jubilee? The Idach Kaven Amar be'ezeh shvua. Once you say which Shemitah it is, Lai boy be'ezeh Yovel. You don't know. You don't need which Jubilee. They're not testifying on something all the way in another Jubilee. Now, Rabbi Yaisi says we trim it down to 3 questions. Which week, which day of the week, which hour, and which place. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa. Tanya, Amalem Rabbi Yaisi lechachamim, l'divreichem. According to you, that you have to ask which Shemitah, which year of the Shemitah. Mi shabava amar emesh haragai. The man Chaim killed Chatzkel yesterday. Amaloi be'ezeh shvua. We ask him which Shemitah of the Jubilee. Be'ezeh shana, which year? Be'ezeh chaydish, which month? Bekama b'chaydish, what day of the month? Amruloi. They said to him, L'dvarecha misha bava amar achshav haragu. He just murdered him now. Amaloi be'ezeh yom. Do we say to him which day? Be'ezeh shah, what hour? Be'ezeh makam? Even though sometimes it's not necessary, we put it upon him because, as we said, we try to exhaust the witnesses. Remember, we said we move them from place to place in order that their mind should get scrambled and they should get confused, right? Because it says we try to save the defendant. So here also we ask questions even though they're not necessary. Even though it's not necessary, Rabbi Yaisi, Emesh Haragu, yesterday he was killed, Shchiach b'Roivedias. That's normal. People come the next day to court. Akshav Haragu, he was killed now, Lo Shchiach b'Roivedias. That's not normal. The people first they digest what happened, and they don't come right the moment after it happens to the court. We ask him, did you recognize the victim? It's very important because we have to know was he a yid or a guy. You don't get capital punishment for a guy. Did he kill a guy or did he kill a yid? Did you give him a warning? That means, Kibul olav hasra, did he accept the warning? Did he accept and say, yes, I know that if I do this, I'm going to die? Hitter atzmai lemisa, did he relinquish himself to death? Now here's a big one. This is what makes execution so hard. Heimis b'seich k'dei dibur? Did he execute him within the time it takes to say, Shalom Alecha Rebbe Umayri, from the time that you warned him? Because if not, maybe he forgot the warning. Now, ha'oived avodah zara, if the crime was about idol worship, we asked the witnesses, Esmi Avad, Who did he worship? Did he worship Merkulis? Did he worship Baal Pa'ar? LePa'ar Avad, LeMerkulis Avad. They each have their own unique worships. Pa'ar is worshipped by defecating in front of it. Merkulis is worshipped by throwing stones at it. Ubameh Ovid. There are 4 universal types of worship. Bezibuach, sacrifice. Kitur, smoking up. The sacrifice or incense. Benisach, libation. Ubishtachavah, and bowing down. And we will stop here.